Hey guys, Jason here with a word to the wise. So, I want to talk a little bit of technology, if you will. I watched a movie over the weekend that kind of ties into this because I tried to make this video over and over and over because I was just kind of blown away at the mystery of the movie. If you haven't seen or heard of Leave the World Behind, starring Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke, a Netflix movie talking about an apocalyptic scenario that begins, and you're kind of just trying to figure out through the whole movie what's going on, who's behind it, what's the story, yada, yada, yada. It had those touches of like supernatural, kind of just weird scenarios. You don't really know how this happened. What's going on with that person? Why did this happen? Animals doing weird things. It's just one of those kind of movies. By the end of it, you're just sitting there in your seat, kind of trying to retrace the steps. And it's a different kind of movie because in the movie, on a few occasions, they tell you, oh, well, pamphlets are dropped and it says this group is behind it because they're saying this in the message, and it's done in this person's writing. But then later on in the movie, you see somebody else and they say, oh, well, no, my friend on the other coast says that he got the same kind of pamphlets, but they were done in another language. Which got me thinking. And then one of the characters in the movie, it's a family that goes to an Airbnb, and then the people who rented the house come home and ask to stay because they were in New York and the power went out in the city. So what's going on? We need to stay here. And everybody's kind of like, well, who are these people? And the homeowners are kind of annoyed with the people that are staying with them. So it goes back and forth a little bit. And you get little tidbits as it goes on because they're kind of just stuck in place. They really can't get out. But in the beginning, like an oil tanker crashes on the beach, like full on. And then one of the other characters goes to a neighbor's house, his neighbor's house, the guy who owns the house, and he sees an airplane has crashed on the beach. And then while he's sitting there, another airplane comes storming out of the clouds and bam, slams into the beach. And then the family, Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke and the kids, try to drive back to Jersey or something from Long Island where they're at, and Teslas are all crashed into one another and they can't get by. And as they're sitting there, she looks and sees the Teslas are automated driving systems, and she sees another Tesla come barreling down the road, so they got to get out of the way and swerve all these Teslas that are driving themselves and crashing into the pile. And then later on, there's a drone that flies overhead. And so it's unmanned machines. Okay? So by the end of the movie, what got me is that they tell you, oh, this was cyberpunks in DC that caused a problem. But it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's like, is this some sort of a new thing where they tell you who did it, but it's not the truth? Because one of the characters who owned the house, he was high up and he knew some elites, and he says, well, this guy, he told me he was going to go visit people that were a part of the evil cabal that runs the world. And the day before this happened, people were moving money in the stock markets, large sums, like they knew something was up. And then when I talked to my friend last night, and I made a joke, are you going to go see your friends in the evil cabal? He laughs at everything, and he didn't laugh. Instead, he just said, you take care of yourself, and he hung up the phone. So here again, did the evil cabal do something with the internet, AI, what have you, and caused all these automated catastrophes? And then at the end of the movie, the guy says, this is a huge spoiler, I'm sorry, but he's like, well, this is a 3-point system that the elites in the government, they thought this would be the easiest way to manage a war. Cause chaos, shutting all their systems down, cause confusion, let them guess what's going on, and then thirdly, just let them be, because they're going to devour themselves. And this was happening in the movie. You know, the city was going crazy. You saw at the end there was planes, there was a huge mushroom cloud, looked like a bomb, not a nuke, and you could see there was things flying around, and you see other things blowing up here and there, and it's like, here again, there's no proof of any people in the movie doing anything. It's all being done through computers. Self-driving planes, self-driving boats, self-driving cars, like all these, like planes, for, you know, especially like airliners, for the longest time they've shown how they can fly and land themselves on a runway. They don't need to have people do it. But if there's some sort of weird autopilot thing that's going on, and then it's just crashing them. So that's what I think this movie is kind of, it's like a testing ground. But here again, with people that have seen the white noise and the conspiracy that went into that whole scenario, the movie where Adam Driver lives in a small Ohio town, and a train derailment that causes a chemical spill. And then 3 months later, that happens. So people are going to grab this movie probably and say, well, this is something we got to be worried about in the future. Cyberpunks, but if you don't pay attention, the elites were having a hand somewhat in what was going on. And I'm not saying anything's going to happen, you know, but 3 months from where this movie came out would be right after Christmas into January. So, yeah, sure, let's get all this money transferred. Let's break people's bank accounts as much as possible, because here's the holidays. What better way to deplete everybody's bank accounts as much as possible, other than people that have huge savings and well-paid jobs and yada yada. But I don't know. I made notes here, and that's the first thing on my notes list is movie predictive programming BS. I'm not saying that is going, you know, they're showing you who did it in the movie. They're telling you who did it in the movie. But if you're paying attention, what you hear doesn't add up to what they show you. Because even after the movie was over, me and my wife are bouncing ideas back and forth to each other, and it's just like, but that doesn't make sense because, and look at this, because, but. So it was a well played movie, and like I said, it's like a puzzle inside the puzzle. But it got me thinking more, because like I wanted to do a video and say, well, these are things you got to look at the numbers in the movie and this and that, blah, blah, blah. But then after watching some Days of Noah videos, I was sitting there like, you know what? I ain't buying it. AI, the new global terror. There's going to be, they made the laws for it already, right? They're implementing laws. They're showing that it needs to be governed. So what happens when you get good guys and the bad guys? This takes the terrorist off the, you know, out of the areas we can't get to. And now it makes a new threat. So you're going to have good AI, and then the people that wield the bad AI, and they're causing the problems. It's not us doing it and wielding it, yada, yada. That's another thing I think is something that is probably going to be coming out in the future, because that's why we have laws that we need to have in place to make sure people are using their computers right. And you need to have X, Y, and Z to even be signing on with a computer, because at any moment somebody could be a computer threat. And thirdly, leaders, like in Revelations, it talks about, you know, the 10 horns being 10 kings. 3 have left, 7 are still in place, or how that goes, paraphrasing. But I don't think, looking at those coins, like I showed in the video the other day, Nikki Haley's wanting to set up the 70 courts, the Sanhedrin, I believe that men are going to be at the final say of what's going on. But to use AI as some sort of a judge, you know, using the information that it can pull up on anybody at any time, and use anything you've ever said or typed or, you know, videoed, you know, against you. Oh, well, you remember saying this. Oh, don't you remember saying that? That was something you shouldn't have said against the government, and that's something you shouldn't have done. And they won't be showing you everything that shows, you know, that you weren't trying to speak out, or you're just having an opinion, but making you into like a bad guy, because how these AI systems work, they're programmed in a way to function. They utilize the information that's out there. They're not sitting around thinking. But the ghost in the machine idea, That, I believe, would be how they would somehow give some sort of a being to, say, the fallen. If they don't have bodies and they move around as ghosts, can they somehow possess into a machine or be put into it to bring it life but make it look like it's still just a computer? Yet it's pulling strings and designing and bringing out information that nobody's ever seen. And lastly, I want to talk about Daniel 11, because it's verse 37 and 38. So let me just read this real quick. He shall pay no attention to the gods of his fathers, or to the one beloved by women. He shall not pay attention to any other gods. He shall magnify himself above all. He shall honor the God of fortresses instead of these, a God whom his father did not know. He shall honor with gold and silver and precious stones and costly gifts. He shall deal with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. Looking at Revelation 13, the image, they breathe life to the image, and it speaks, or yes, I believe that totally could be AI. Could be other religions, people talking about Buddhism, Hinduism, and Islam, and all these other religions. Could any other thing could be brought in there, a god their fathers did not know. But if they were in Babylon, they got a lot of that their fathers did know. Especially Daniel, since Daniel was there. And giving stones and gold, yes, you can build gold and silver into computer systems for sure, but to give them as honoring, worship, I don't know how that would work. Am I right? No way can anybody say. I could never say that I'm right. I'm just saying that these are probably more probable, because I doubt man is going to give up full power and just sit there and worship a machine. Christians are not going to worship a machine. The Jews and Hebrew people and Islam and Chinese, are they going to all sit there and feel comfortable worshiping a machine as a creator? I don't see that. Unless they bring aliens in and they have some sort of a system they bring in and say, well, this is us. We're going to leave our computer here. We can't stay here. Your atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Just a word of the wise, guys. God bless.